We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. U.S. media sources say Marco Rubio is Donald Trump's choice as Secretary of State. Trump's Republican Party set to control both houses of Congress. Navin Ramgoolam to be the next Prime Minister of Mauritius. India's PM Modi congratulates the veteran politician and three-time former PM on his emphatic win. Haiti's international airport shuts down amid surge in gang violence. Airlines suspend Haiti flights after plane hit by gunfire. India-Russia holds 25th Intergovernmental Commission on Trade, Economic, Scientific, Technical and Cultural Cooperation in New Delhi. And governments at COP29 talks approve new UN standards for international carbon markets, a key step towards allowing nations to trade credits to meet climate targets. On to the top story this hour. While counting for U.S. House of Representatives still is ongoing, many projections claim Trump is going to get majority in the lower house. That means out of total 435 legislators of the House, 218 are certain to go to Republicans, which has already grabbed a majority in the Senate with 53 out of 100 seats in total. As a report by DD India's Akhilesh Suman on what will be the impact of Trump's majority in both houses of the U.S. Parliament.
Republicans gaining majority in both lower and upper houses will be in contrast to the previous situation when the ruling Democrats were in minority in the House of Representatives, significantly impacting the legislative agenda of the Joe Biden administration. Winning majority in both Senate and the House of Representatives will be a big boost to the authority of President-elect Donald Trump. He envisages major policy changes in comparison to Joe Biden in both domestic and international arena. This will also mean that there will be no threat of a federal shutdown on budget-related provisions as Trump will have majority in both the houses. This majority will also allow him to move forward on slashing taxes for both corporates and other citizens, as well as on his announcement on shrinking the number of staff in the federal government. As Trump has already vowed to make major shift in immigration policies and the deportation of illegal immigrants, the majority in both the houses of the Capitol Hill will allow this agenda get easy nod. US Supreme Court may intervene in legislations if challenged in many cases, but Trump will be backed by 6-3 conservative majority that includes 3 justices he appointed. So, Donald Trump will be in full control of the US parliamentary politics when he assumes responsibility as 47th President of the United States of America on January 20th next year. The new Congress convenes on January 3, days before Trump's inauguration at the White House. Akhilesh Sawan's report for DD India.
Well, in the United States, President-elect Donald Trump is not wasting any time in selecting his team for a second term in the White House. In latest news, Trump has selected U.S. Senator Marco Rubio to be his Secretary of State. Florida-born politician is on track to be the first Latino to serve as America's top diplomat once the Republican president-elect takes place in office in January. Rubio has in years past advocated for a muscular foreign policy with respect to America's geopolitical foes, including China, Iran and Cuba. The Ukraine crisis will be high on Rubio's agenda. Rubio was also one of 15 Republican senators to vote against a $95 billion military aid package for Ukraine passed in April. Rubio's selection holds domestic as well as international significance. By selecting Rubio for a key policy role, Trump may help consolidate gains among Latinos and make clear that they have a place at the highest level of his administration. Rubio is a top China hawk in the Senate. And another major appointment announced is of Mike Waltz, selected to be National Security Advisor. Waltz has served in the National Guard as a colonel. He criticized Chinese activity in the Asia-Pacific and has voiced the need for the United States to be ready for a potential conflict in the region. While slamming the Biden administration for a disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021, Waltz has publicly praised Trump's foreign policy views. Waltz is also on the Republicans' China Task Force and also sits on the Intelligence, Armed Services and Foreign Affairs committees. He supported aid to Ukraine in the past but has demanded conditions. And now Trump has picked Republican Representative Elise Stefanik the top job as the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. Stefanik, a Republican congresswoman from New York's 21st district, was elected last week to her 6th term in the House. She will inherit a role Nikki Haley held for 2 years in the first Trump administration. And former New York Representative Lee Zeldin will be leading the Environmental Protection Agency. Republican former Congressman Zeldin has frequently voted against legislation on green issues. Trump is likely to reverse many rules administered by the EPA on the burning of fossil fuels, including one curbing carbon emissions from power plants and another slashing such emissions from vehicles. Trump has said he plans to begin rescinding EPA and Transportation Department vehicle pollution rules on his first day in office and is considering paring back or eliminating EV tax breaks and other incentives. Trump also plans to rescind California's ability to set its own vehicle emissions rule, as he did in 2019. As a candidate for New York governor in the 2022 election, Zeldin criticized the state's decision to join California's zero-emission vehicle program that vows to end the sale of gasoline-powered only vehicles by 2035. Well, Tuesday is another key date for U.S. President-elect Donald Trump. Having won the elections and almost assured a majority on both the houses of Congress, Tuesday will decide whether the judge will throw out his conviction in hush money case or decide otherwise.
The judge in U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's New York criminal case will decide Tuesday whether to throw out his conviction, potentially handing him a major legal win as he prepares to take office again. Trump was convicted of 34 felony counts in May after a jury found he had fraudulently manipulated business records to cover up an alleged sexual encounter with a porn star ahead of the 2016 election. Trump is due to be sentenced on November 26. He may receive a reprieve if Judge Juan Merchan decides to dismiss the case following the Supreme Court's recent ruling on presidential immunity. That landmark ruling by a 6-3 conservative majority gave presidents a sweeping immunity from prosecution for a range of official acts committed while in office. Ahead of the election, Trump's lawyers moved to have the case thrown out in light of the Supreme Court decision, a move which prosecutors have firmly rejected. Alongside the New York case, Trump faces 2 active federal cases. One is related to his effort to overturn the 2020 election, and the other connected to classified documents he allegedly mishandled after leaving office. However, as president, he would be able to intervene to end those cases. Jackie Smith, the special counsel handling both cases, reportedly has begun to wind them down. Antra Sinha for DD India.
While the grind of the election season in the U.S. is behind us, the past days and weeks have revealed deep biases, divisions and fissures in the society. And yet, there is more in the world to embrace and celebrate. Here's a story of a New York-based dance company, Battery Dance, that shows how performance art has the power to bring diverse people and cultures together in a holistic manner. And there's a special India Connect. DD India correspondent Shubhendu Ghosh reports for more.
Dance has always been a powerful tool of expression. The rhythmic moves tell a story that words often fail. This is Battery Dance, a New York-based dance company that aims to create lasting social impact by increasing human understanding and improving lives through the universal expression of dance.
We've worked in 75 countries around the world, so connecting people, creating beautiful art, uplifting people who don't have the same advantages that we do. So my first exposure to dance really happened in India when I was a teenager living in Mumbai. There's no country that has the diversity of dance that India. I created a production called Songs of Tagore, and I also created a work called Shakti.
Battery Dance performs on the world's stages, teaches, presents and advocates for the field of dance. Through the award-winning Dancing to Connect program, the company uses dance as a tool for building social cohesion and resolving conflicts throughout the world.
So we created a program called Dancing to Connect in 2006, and little did we know that that program that started in Germany, Cambodia, and New York would go around the world to 65 countries, and among them Israel and the Palestinian territories. And what we find is dance is universal, and if we can get away from politics and away from the differences in cultures and religion and just find the common humanity of young people, and that's what we have been able to do through Dancing to Connect.
Battery performances are characterized by choreography and music inspired by worldwide sources, reflecting American society and its multiplicity of cultures. In a world torn by divisions and differences, life and works of Jonathan Hollander is a testimony that hearts can be brought closer and cultures together in a common symphony. With camera person Jay Shankar, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in New York.
And moving on, Mauritius opposition leader Navin Ramgoolam declared on Tuesday that his alliance had won a crushing election victory in general polls. Ramgoolam, a two-time former Prime Minister, told crowds of cheering supporters in his constituency that his alliance of change had made a clean sweep of parliamentary seats on the island of Mauritius. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Navin Ramgoolam on his electoral victory in Mauritius. In a social media post, PM Modi wished Ramgoolam success and said that he is looking forward to working with him to further strengthen the unique partnership between the two nations. On Monday, the incumbent Prime Minister Pravind Jugnauth conceded defeat in the parliamentary elections and said that his political alliance was headed for a major loss in the polls. And businessman Alex Didier Fils-Aime has been sworn in as Haiti's new Prime Minister during a ceremony in Port-au-Prince, promising to restore security in the crisis-racked country. Haiti's Transitional Presidential Council appointed entrepreneur and former Senate candidate Alex Didier Fils-Aime as Haiti's new Prime Minister on Monday. The council named Didier to replace Prime Minister Gary Connell, who was appointed in late May. After a ceremony in Port-au-Prince, Didier said transparency and good governance will be a priority for his government and pledged that inclusive, transparent and democratic elections will be held in the country.
Transparency and good governance in the management of public affairs will be a priority for my government. We will work towards social cohesion, a necessary condition for the restoration of the state and the holding of inclusive, transparent and democratic elections. Only this will grant the state legitimate and constitutional authority.
Well, several airlines have suspended flights to Haiti after a passenger plane from the U.S. was hit by gunfire as it tried to land in Port-au-Prince. The Haiti airport was subsequently closed indefinitely to all commercial flights. Spirit Airlines Flight 951 from Fort Lauderdale in Florida was diverted to the neighboring Dominican Republic, where it landed safely at Santiago Airport. A flight attendant suffered minor injuries, but no passengers were hurt in the attack, the second in 3 weeks on aircraft flying over Haiti's capital. Well, the incident comes as a new Prime Minister took office in the crisis-hit country, which has been plagued by armed gangs and escalating violence. And updates on West Asia conflict now as U.S. ramped up pressure on Israel to address Gaza aid crisis. Israel said it has met most demands by U.S. ahead of the deadline. However, Israel also said that a number of other things remained under discussion. Earlier in a letter, the Biden administration warned Israel a potential halt to arms transfers if it did not take actions to let more humanitarian aid into Gaza. Among the U.S. demands that Israel appears to have refused is allowing the entry of 50 to 100 commercial trucks a day. The official said commercial activity had been halted because Hamas was controlling the merchants. And Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar said that there was progress in talks about a Lebanon ceasefire on Monday. He also said that war against Hezbollah was not yet over. He indicated Russia could play a part by stopping Hezbollah from rearming via Syria.
It is important that the principle that Hezbollah won't be able to arm again or to get new weapon systems, to take them into Lebanon and to renew the threat to the extent it was before this war. It is vital to the success of any arrangement in Lebanon. And the Russians are, as you know, present in Syria, and if they are agree with this principle, I think they can contribute to achieve effectively this objective. And if this objective will be achieved, then we can believe that this arrangement can be implemented more effectively.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. Elaborate security cover in place for free and fair polls as Sri Lanka's campaigning for general elections end. 17 million electorate will exercise their right to vote. Political mayhem continues in Bangladesh as appointment of new advisors in interim government sparks protest. And nature's fury continues unabated in Philippines as the nation was struck by a fourth cyclone in less than a month.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and moving on in Sri Lanka, campaigning for the general elections ended on Monday midnight as the island nation moved into a silent period. Polling for the general election will be held on Thursday between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. at over 13,400 polling stations, where the 17 million electorate will exercise their right to vote. Over 8,800 candidates are in the fray to be elected through 196 seats from 22 electoral districts and 29 national lists contest seats. The Election Commission has said that over 75,000 police personnel have been deployed for the election process across the island. The elections are expected to set the tone for the country's political future under the leadership of President Dissanayake. Sri Lanka had elected NPP candidate Anurakumara Dissanayake as the president in September this year, who days after assuming office dissolved the parliament, making way for snap elections. And in Bangladesh, different sections of people, including student movement against discrimination, protested across the country on Monday against the appointment of some new advisors of the interim government, questioning their role during the previous government. A group of students at Dhaka University staged a protest on Monday, demanding the immediate removal of those who they referred to as allies of the fascist appointed as new advisors. 8 coordinators of the student movement were present there. The conveners voiced the outrage of the students and demanded transparency in the selection process. Also, the interim government headed by Professor Mohammad Yunus on Saturday appointed businessman Sheikh Bashir Uddin, filmmaker Mustafa Sarovar Farooqi and Special Assistant to the Chief Advisor Mehfooz Alam as advisors, and reshuffled portfolios of some advisors in a major reshuffle in the government since its formation on 8th of August. And New Zealand on Tuesday offered a rare national apology to victims and families who were subjected to institutional physical and sexual abuse over the last 70 years. The apology followed a report by a public inquiry in July that found some 200,000 children and vulnerable adults experienced some form of abuse from 1950 to 2019.
Today I'm apologising on behalf of the government to everyone who suffered abuse, harm and neglect while in state care. Today, make this apology to all survivors on behalf of my own and previous governments. I am sorry that many bystanders, staff, volunteers and carers turned a blind eye and failed to stop or report abuse. I am sorry that the state's oversight of people in care was so poor. I am sorry that many abusers were not made to face justice, which meant that other people experienced abuse that could have been prevented. I am sorry that the state did not act quickly and boldly enough to put much better protection in place for people in all care locations.
Well, let us know more about what one of New Zealand's biggest abuse scandals were. The case relates to a report which found that 200,000 children and vulnerable adults suffered physical and sexual abuse in state and faith-based care institutions in between 1950 and 2019. Many of them included people from the Maori and Pacific communities and those with mental or physical disabilities. The inquiry took 6 years to complete and included interviews with thousands of survivors of abuse in state and faith-based care institutions. The ensuing report documented a wide range of abuses, including rape and sterilization and forced labor. It found that faith-based institutions often had higher rates of sexual abuse than state care, and civil and faith leaders fought to cover up abuse by moving abusers to other locations and denying culpability. Anti-Addiction and Disability Awareness Summit was organized on Monday in Nepal's Kathmandu. The D30 De-Addiction and Disability Awareness Summit aimed at discussing disabilities caused by drug abuse, especially in the youth. Nepal's President Ram Sahai Yadav distributed International Excellence in Youth Icon Awards in the event to individuals who have contributed to the field of drug de-addiction. Civil society, spiritual leaders, social activists and political leaders from India and Nepal participated in the summit along with eminent personalities of both countries to generate awareness for addiction from drug abuse. India's Paralympic silver medalist Deepa Malik emphasized that drug abuse results in disabilities and that the disabilities can be prevented, which are a challenge to a normal lifestyle.
People with disability who joined the world of sports have gone on to become an ambassador of de-addiction, requesting people to please take care, not fall prey to these drug abuse, which will further lead to disability.
Well, governments at the COP29 talks approved on Monday new UN standards for international carbon markets in a key step towards allowing countries to trade credits to to meet their climate targets. On the opening day of the UN climate talks in Azerbaijan, nearly 200 nations agreed a number of crucial ground rules for setting a market in motion, breaking a years-long deadlock over contentious carbon markets. However, other key aspects of the overall framework still need to be negotiated, including creation of a robust market for high-quality credits. The International Emissions Trading Association, a business group that backs global carbon markets, has said total trading in the UN-backed market could by 2030 generate $250 billion a year and cut 5 billion metric tons of carbon output annually. Well, Monday's deal could allow a UN-backed global carbon market to start up as soon as next year. The benchmarks adopted in Baku will allow for the development of rules, including calculating how many credits a given project can receive. Let us now tell you what is carbon credit and how does it work. Well, carbon credits were devised as a mechanism to reduce greenhouse gas or GHG emissions by creating a market in which companies can trade in emission permits. Companies receive a set number of carbon credits under the system that decline over time. They can sell any excess to other companies. Carbon credits create a monetary incentive for companies to reduce their carbon emissions. Those that can't easily reduce emissions can still operate, but at a higher financial cost. One credit allows the emission of 1 ton of carbon dioxide or the equivalent of other greenhouse gases. Proponents of the carbon credit system say that it leads to measurable, verifiable emission reductions. With the ultimate goal of reducing the emissions of GHGs into the atmosphere, examples of projects could include cultivation of carbon dioxide absorbing mangroves or distribution of clean stoves to replace polluting methods of cooking in poor rural communities. And moving on, thousands of people sought shelter, ports were shut down and landslides blocked mountain roads in the Philippines on Monday as the nation was struck by a fourth cyclone in less than a month. Strong winds and heavy rain toppled trees and flooded roads as Typhoon Toraji made landfall in the province of Aurora on Monday morning. No casualties have been reported so far after the typhoon plowed through the mountainous interiors. As per local authorities, at least 8,000 people have been evacuated from coastal areas and flood, landslide-prone areas in the provinces of Aurora, Isabela, Ifugao and Mountain Province. The last three storms, Typhoon Yinzing, Typhoon Kongray and Tropical Storm Trami, have left more than 160 people dead and affected over 9 million people in the Philippines with extreme flooding. And the New York premiere of Netflix's new animated film, Spellbound, took place on Monday with a star-studded cast, including Nicole Kidman, Javier Bardem and Rachel Zegler, joining director Vicky Jensen in attendance. This enchanting animated musical follows a young girl on a daring quest through the magical world of Lumbria. Her mission to break a powerful spell that has divided her kingdom and turned her parents into monstrous creatures.
It was scary, very scary. I'm always scared when I sing. So, but I also was really happy to be able to be a part of this, and obviously it's helmed by a woman, which is kind of fantastic. So I'm just happy to be having fun and trying all different things.
I've never done an animated movie, so when they invited me, I was very thrilled to be part of it because I love animated movies. I think they are some of the smartest movies I've seen, and the movies that made me feel more emotional are animated movies in the last 20 years.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. India calls for urgent UN Security Council reform, stresses need for representation and change. The winter wonderland, Kashmir, receives season's first snowfall. And today is Rashtriya Pakshi Divas, the birthday of Dr. Salim Ali, the birdman who popularized study of birds in India. Welcome back. You're watching India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. U.S. media sources say Marco Rubio is Donald Trump's choice as Secretary of State. Trump's Republican Party is set to control both houses of Congress. Navin Ramgoolam to be the next Prime Minister of Mauritius. India's PM Modi congratulates the veteran politician and three-time former PM on his emphatic win. Haiti's international airport shuts down amid surge in gang violence. Airlines suspend Haiti flights after plane hit by gunfire. India-Russia holds 25th Intergovernmental Commission on Trade, Economic, Scientific, Technical and Cultural Cooperation in New Delhi. And governments at COP29 talks approve new UN standards for international carbon markets, a key step towards allowing nations to trade credits to meet climate targets. And moving on, India's call for urgent reforms to the United Nations Security Council, noting that despite decades of discussion, there have been no significant changes since 1965. India's permanent representative to the UN, Parvathineni Harish, on Monday said that in spite of several decades of collective reiteration of reforms, it is disheartening that no results were seen in this regard since 1965, when the Council was last expanded in the non-permanent category alone. He was addressing the plenary meeting of the General Assembly in New York. Harish pointed to three key factors hindering progress, which includes the ineffective intergovernmental negotiation process, the insistence on consensus by some countries, and the lack of representation for the global South. He pointed to the example of the G20, where India's presidency last year welcomed the African Union as a member, demonstrating that with political will, change is possible.
Tasked with the responsibility for the maintenance of international peace and security, the Security Council has too often found itself paralyzed by the geopolitical realities of today, which have evolved far beyond the realm of that of 1945. In today's interconnected world, Mr. President, a more equitable council is very essential. We cannot go on with the relics of the past for the demands of the future. India has consistently championed a cooperative, inclusive, and consultative approach to international relations. We firmly believe that the calls for reformed multilateralism, with Security Council reforms at its core, is supported by the overwhelming majority of the membership.
While India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and Russia's first Deputy Prime Minister Denis Manturov co-chaired the 25th session of the India-Russia Intergovernmental Commission on Trade, Economic, Scientific, Technological and Cultural Cooperation in New Delhi. The Intergovernmental Commission serves as the highest level forum for bilateral economic collaboration between the two countries, covering a broad range of areas from trade to cultural exchange. Russian First Deputy PM will also hold various bilateral meetings during his visit to India. And India has leapfrogged into the semiconductor technology, with Defence Research and Development Organisation of India designing a 4-inch silicon carbide chips and 150-watt gallium nitride chips. They will fuel next-generation applications in artificial intelligence and aerospace. These lighter, faster and more efficient semiconductors will be deployed in radars, unmanned systems and 5G and satellite communications. A small production facility has been built at Hyderabad in Southeast India to march ahead towards self-reliance or Atmanirbhar Bharat vision of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And campaigning for the first phase of assembly polls in East India's Jharkhand ended on Monday. 43 assembly constituencies will go to the polls in the first phase on Wednesday. Elections for Jharkhand assembly will be held in two phases. Voting for the second and the final phase will be held on November 20th, while counting will take place on the 23rd of November. And in Jammu and Kashmir, security forces conducted a mock drill at the Chenab Rail Bridge, the world's highest railway bridge located between Bakal and Kauri in the Riyasi district. Chenab Bridge, in a structural marvel built across a gorge of Chenab Bridge in the Riyasi district of Jammu and Kashmir under the Udhampur-Srinagar-Baramulla rail link project. This bridge was constructed 359 meters above the Chenab River in the Jammu and Kashmir region and is around 35 meters taller than the Eiffel Tower. Well, in Najafgarh, just outside New Delhi, an agrivoltaics farm blends agriculture with solar energy. This innovative approach supports India's food security and energy goals for a sustainable, greener future. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya reports for more. Take a look.
Today we take you to the agrivoltaics farm in Najafgarh just outside New Delhi, a shining example of how India is harmonizing agriculture with solar energy. Managed by the India Agrivoltaics Alliance, this farm showcases a groundbreaking approach. Agrivoltaics allows us to use land for both growing crops and generating solar power simultaneously.
We are doing double utilization of the land, in which we are gaining the sun power with respect to the solar panels, and we are doing cropping underneath of it. We made these two type of the prototype over here in the outskirts of Delhi. The purpose to develop the prototype is to demonstrate to all over India that we are able to do this type of the cropping, and nowadays the ministry is also behind it because they want to increase the farmer income. Over here we had multiplied the farmer income by 6 times.
Here, solar panels are elevated, creating space for crops like cabbage to flourish beneath them. The design features walkways for easy maintenance and scientific software that stimulates light and shade to optimize crop yield.
We have a land of 4 acres each on both the plants, and we have employed around, say, 25 people in this 8 acres of land. These people, they work here as farmers, as taking care of the cattle and cleaning the panels.
Balancing food security and energy access is crucial. By 2030, India will need approximately 311 million tons of food grains, while aiming for extensive solar and wind energy installation to achieve net zero by 2070. As India embraces agrivoltaics, it's vital to chart a sustainable path forward, ensuring that our future remains green. With camera-person Gaurav Giri, this is Tapas Bhattacharya for DD India from Najafgarh, Delhi.
A National Bird Day is being celebrated today in India. The day was declared by the Government of India on the occasion of the birth anniversary of India's famous ornithologist and naturalist Dr. Salim Ali. He was fondly called the Birdman of India.
The study of birds, ornithology, is incomplete without the mention of the person famously known as the Birdman of India, Dr. Salim Muizuddin Abdul Ali, the first person to conduct systematic bird surveys across India, the first person who advanced the study of birds in the country. Born on 12th November 1896, Dr. Salim popularized ornithology in India. Dr. Ali helped create the Bharatpur Bird Sanctuary and the Ranganathittu Bird Sanctuary. Dr. Ali was awarded the Padma Bhushan and the Padma Vibhushan for his contribution and research in the field of ornithology. Dr. Ali also received the Gold Medal of the British Ornithologists' Union in 1967. Salim not only researched about birds but also contributed to the arena of protection of nature, natural conservation. His contribution to research and writings on birds is the guidebook for every person curious about the world of birds. His famous publication, The Book of Indian Birds, popularized ornithology among the common man. He later collaborated with the famous ornithologist S. Dillon Ripley to write the extensive 10-volume handbook of the birds of India and Pakistan, which took 10 years of research to complete. The 10-volume work covers the birds of the subcontinent, their appearance, habitat, breeding habits, and migration pattern, among other things. Dr. Salim Ali wrote numerous journal articles, popular and academic books, and field guides. Among the several books authored by him, the Book of Indian Birds still remains the Bible for budding ornithologists. Bureau Report, DD India.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. The Indian Army hosted the annual Foreign Service Attachés briefing in New Delhi, where defence attachés from 64 countries discussed global security issues and India's perspectives. Chief of the Army Staff General Upendra Dwivedi led discussions, fostering a deeper understanding of the Indian Army's strategic priorities and viewpoints on important global and regional development. The 5th Bharat Ko Janiye quiz was virtually launched by External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar on Monday. The quiz is being held online from 11th November to 11th December. The quiz was started in 2015 by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. It is an endeavour of the Government of India to strengthen connect with Indian diaspora and to engage foreigners keen to learn about India. It is designed to promote a deeper understanding of India's history, growth story and its contributions to the world. 58-year-old science graduate Anil Jaiswal from India's central state of Madhya Pradesh, Indore, has replicated Kashmir Valley's climate in his 320 square feet room to cultivate one of the world's most expensive saffron spies through the aeroponics method. Jaiswal intends to market the spice at 500,000 per kg rupees domestically and rupees 800,000 per kg in international markets. Higher reaches of Kashmir on Monday received the season's first snowfall while plains were lashed by rains, ending a month-long dry spell in the valley. The snowfall and rain lowered the day temperature significantly, signaling the arrival of winter. So it's time to pack your bags and head to the winter wonderland. And still to come in DD India News Hour. Vistara Airlines' last flight landed in Delhi ahead of merger with Air India. And in sports, Grandmaster Aravind Chidambaram wins the Chennai Grandmasters 2024 chess event. And 67th Grammy nominations announced. India makes its presence felt by earning multiple nominations.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. Lepakshi Kuranan on to some business news now. Vistara, a joint venture between Tata Group and Singapore Airlines, will fully merge with Air India on Tuesday, marking a transition into a single consolidated service under the Air India banner. Earlier, ground staff and crew members at Odisha's Biju Patnaik International Airport bid an emotional goodbye to the last Vistara flight on Monday. The Delhi-bound flight was the full-service carrier's last before its merger with Air India. The first flight of the integrated Air India Vistara entity took off for Mumbai from Doha on Monday night. Vistara aircraft will now be identified by a special 4-digit Air India code beginning with the digit 2. And more updates on markets now. The Dow Jones Industrial Average notched a record high close on Monday, lifted by bank stocks that benefited from optimism about Donald Trump's expected fiscal policies. Futures steadied as a rally on Wall Street now appear to be slowing. All the benchmark indexes still eked out record highs. The S&P 500 gained 5.81 points, while the Nasdaq Composite gained 11.99 points. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 304.14 points. Wall Street has been on a tear after Trump's victory in the 2024 presidential election last week. And Asia's benchmark equity index crept higher early on Tuesday after U.S. stocks rose for a fifth session. Japanese shares led regional gains, while stocks ticked lower in Australia and South Korea. Futures in Hong Kong pointed down amid disappointment over Chinese stimulus. Investors in Asia are still digesting Beijing's latest stimulus package, which relieved some of the debt burden on local governments but lacked the sweeping fiscal support many investors had hoped for. The next major item on the agenda looks to be U.S. inflation figures due on Wednesday. Well, the oil prices were little changed in early trading on Tuesday, awaiting further price direction from OPEC's monthly report. Brent crude futures fell 1% to $71.82 a barrel by 0158 GMT. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures were at $68.07 a barrel, up 3 cents. Both contracts had fallen by more than 5% over the previous two trading sessions. China on Friday unveiled a 10 trillion yuan or $1.40 trillion debt package to ease local government financing strains, but analysts said it fell short of the amount of stimulus that would be needed to boost the growth. And Indian equity markets gained ground on Tuesday, with the BSE Sensex rising by 0.19%, while the Nifty 50 advanced 0.29%. The upward trend followed a cautious start to the week on Monday when global cues, foreign institutional investor selling and muted quarterly earnings reports kept gains limited. Analysts suggest investors avoid buying Hindalco, ANGC and Asian Paints at current prices due to various technical indicators and market trends. Well, you're watching DDD News Hour. Time now for some sports news. Jannik Sinner was presented with the ATP year-end #1 trophy in front of a joyful home crowd in Turin on Monday at the ATP Finals. In June, Sinner became the first Italian man or woman to reach the coveted world #1 spot in singles since computerized rankings were established in 1973. The 23-year-old is the 19th player to receive the honor and joined a group of 3 other active players to have done so alongside Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal and Carlos Alcaraz. And Grandmaster Aravind Chidambaram has won the Chennai Grandmasters 2024 chess event after beating Armenian-American Levon Aronanian. The 25-year-old beat Aronanian 2-0 in the tiebreaker to win the Masters section of the tournament. Earlier, Aravind Chidambaram ended India's top-ranked player Arjun Erigaisi's undefeated streak in the 6th round after having started off the competition with 5 draws. Erigaisi has finished 3rd in the competition. Aravind Chidambaram also beat Param Magasudlu in the final round. Lecce have named Marco Giampaolo as the new coach on a deal until the end of the season after parting ways with Luca Gotti last weekend. Lecce sacked Gotti on Saturday after a poor string of results left them languishing in the relegation zone. Lecce said in a statement that the coach has signed an agreement until June 30th, 2025 with automatic renewal in the event of reaching safety. Former AC Milan coach Giampaolo was most recently in charge of Sampdoria in 2022. Lecce are third from bottom in Serie A with 9 points from 12 games. And Barcelona forwards Robert Lewandowski and Lamine Yamal will miss international duty with Poland and Spain respectively after sustaining injuries. Yamal missed Barca's 1-0 La Liga loss at Real Sociedad on Sunday due to a right ankle injury suffered in the Champions League. The teenager could be out for up to 3 weeks and will miss Spain's Nations League clashes with Denmark and Switzerland. La Liga's top scorer Lewandowski will be out for a little under 2 weeks with a back injury suffered on Sunday and will miss Poland's Nations League matches against Portugal and Scotland. And the nominations for the 67th Grammy Awards have been announced, marking a significant moment in the music industry. India is making its presence felt this year with multiple nominations. Diptanshu Kashyap brings us more on this.
From the Beatles' first Grammy nomination in 28 years to Beyoncé, Kendrick Lamar and Taylor Swift leading the charge for next year's biggest awards, the nominations for the 67th Annual Grammy Awards have been unveiled. With a host of surprises and shocks, music lovers worldwide are in for an exciting race. India has also made its mark with multiple artists earning nominations featuring both familiar names and fresh faces. Indian music maestro Ricky Cage has earned a nomination for his album Break of Dawn in the Best New Age Ambient or Chant Album category. Meanwhile, British singer-songwriter Charlie, of Indian descent, has garnered 7 nominations across various categories, her first ever as a solo artist. Sister duo Nora Jones and Anushka Shankar, daughter of the legendary sitar virtuoso Pandit Ravi Shankar, each received nominations for their respective albums Visions and Chapter 2nd, How Dark It Is Before Dawn. Anushka Shankar also received an additional nomination for her collaboration with British artist Jacob Collier on the song Rock Somewhere that has been nominated in the Best Global Music Performance category. This category also includes Indian origin artist Radhika Vikaria's album Warriors of Light and entrepreneur artist Chandrika Tandon's album Triveni. The ceremony is set to take place on the 2nd of February next year, with India hoping to achieve even greater recognition. With Sujata Lochap, Diptanshu Kashyap's report for DD India.
Well, thousands of Germans kicked off the carnival season in the stronghold of Cologne on Monday at precisely 11:11 a.m. on the 11th day of the 11th month. The traditional countdown in Hugh-Market Square, in which onlookers dressed in colourful costumes participate, is the start of the 5th season, accompanied by chants of Koele Alaf, meaning Cologne rules. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. Well, we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Vipakshi Kurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.